everyone, my name is Keeley Gasparro, and this is my Steaming Through Kindergarten Applied Project. My school is an affluent private Catholic school located in Huntington Beach, California. My current class has 20 students, 4 of which have autism. I teach kindergarten at my school, and my sample of students will be the 11 female kindergartners in my current class. I had 3 main goals during this project. The first was to find out my female students' opinions and perceptions of STEAM, to see if there are significant achievement gaps between my female and male students within our STEAM subjects, and to figure out what I can do to help my female students become more successful in our STEAM courses. I collected about 5 different sets of data, and my first one was through interview questions. Each female student was interviewed with 4 questions over the span of about 5 minutes. The questions were favorite subject, favorite STEAM activity, least favorite STEAM activity, and what they would like to have for their future career. The top favorite subjects for school were art and math. The favorite STEAM activity was our engineering, so anything that had to do with building. The least favorite STEAM activity was our experiments where we were doing measurements and math. And the top future career was a nurse. During this, I did find it interesting that the least favorite STEAM activity was also the favorite subject in school. So it was tied with math and art. And then when you went into the least favorite STEAM activity, the math part of the experiments was their least favorite. So a little contradictory, but I found it very interesting. Our next one, I kept the students mixed together with male and female groups all combined. And during this, they had to measure and graph temperatures of different objects. Each of our activities this week were weather unit related, as that's what we're working on. So for this one, each group had a thermometer to measure the degrees, record the data, and then graph their findings on different objects that were placed in the sun and in the shade. All of the groups did really well on this activity, with the majority receiving 100%, and only one of my groups made a small error and missed a question, and they still ended up with a 95%. So when the male and female students worked together, we really didn't have too many problems. For the next activity, they were to create shade for a UV sunbead. For those of you that don't know, UV sunbeads come clear, and when you put them in the sun, they'll change color. So each group was told to design something that would create shade for this bead for when we put them outside. Out of all of the groups, 60% of the groups were successful and 40% were not. When we looked at just the female data, 1 group was successful for the females, 2 were not. And out of the males, all of the male groups were successful. So for this activity, more females did struggle than the males. The next one was an independent activity. I wanted to see how well they could do on their own with this activity. So as a class, we had read through our weather sight words. We read the book as a class. We went over their vocab words. And then the students were directed to illustrate pictures to match their weather sentences. Out of my female students, 8 were able to do it independently and give an accurate picture that matched their vocab word, whereas 3 of the female students were unable to. They needed extra assistance, they forgot a word, or they weren't sure what type of picture to draw. Out of my male students, 8 were able to successfully complete this, and only 1 of my male students needed extra assistance. So with this data as well, more females struggled than the males. And the last group of data that I collected was through an assessment at the end. So at the end of our weather unit, they had different pictures and weather words that they had to match together. And then they were given 5 true or false questions about their weather unit. We had worked on this weather unit for about a month, so they should have been pretty well versed in the vocab words and the descriptions. With the assessment data, The female average score was a 95%, and the average male score was a 98%. So there was a 3% difference in their achievement score as well. For intervention steps, there's a few things that I want to do, and I have different reasons for doing it, but the first one is incorporating more matching and picture activities on our iPads to expand both the female students' technology use and their communication needs. So just to give them a lot more opportunities and experiences looking at the vocab, pulling it for a small group time if needed, because more of my female students actually struggle in reading right now, and I think that's a big part of why they weren't doing well on the assessment. Another thing to not single out these students but still make sure that they're getting the help that they need is to assign the female students books on STEAM topics through our Epic Reading app. So this app is great. You can assign books through their little mailbox, and it's only to them, so none of the other students can see what they're working on. We typically do our Epic Reading app at the same time, so these students won't be singled out. They won't be going to a different group, but they'll get the differentiated instruction that they need at that time. The next one is to implement the students acting out their vocab words for more full body movement and engagement to create an interdisciplinary instruction. So I know a lot of my female students, they love acting, they love art, they love being able to express themselves, and I'm hoping by letting them acting out their vocab words, that'll give them a little bit more comprehension on the words. The next one is spatial skills practice. I want to incorporate more building and engineering activities during structured play times with magnet tiles, Legos, colored blocks, and really work on spatial skills to help with the math, to hopefully help also with the measuring parts of math and looking at their designs in a measuring way and not just a fun way. I also want to incorporate more engineering and design activities into science and math times to create more experiences for them in these fields. I noticed that a lot of my females don't always talk about it, and even when we were talking in our interviews, they would kind of give me ways that they wanted to engineer something but couldn't fully explain it. So I think the more experiences, the better. And in order to make sure that these intervention steps are being met, I'm going to continue monitoring progress through frequent informal and formal assessments in these areas to just really make sure that these students feel confident and they feel comfortable with these activities, but are also creating them in a successful way. So I, yes, want them to be excited about STEAM, but I also want to make sure that they're building their foundational skills correctly. Thank you all for watching my presentation, and I hope you learned a little bit more about my females in STEAM.